Hi, everybody. It's Alex Jarett. We've got another leadership briefing today with Praveen Kamsetti, and the topic is driving business value with AI, a CIO's approach. You can watch this video and all the videos at technologyexecutivesclub.com. So, hey, Praveen, how are you?
I'm good, Alex. How are you doing?
Good, I'm doing great. Let me introduce you to everybody. So everybody knows, Praveen, you're a technology leader in multiple companies. You're also writing some newsletter articles that are getting some really good play on LinkedIn. So today we're going to talk about one called Driving Business Value with AI, a CI's approach. What a great article idea. And I've seen the comments. What a great article.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for reading it.
Yeah, happy to do it. Let's get into it. And one thing I noticed right up front, you have some caveats about ROI with AI, and you say it's actually different than the normal ROI for normal projects. Why don't you go into that and explain sort of your preface?
Sure. So, as we all know, the promise of AI is transformation.
Uh-huh.
It also offers some of the benefits, such as improvement in your efficiency, improved the decision making, and innovative business models. Right? We have seen a lot of value. Some of the projects are successful. Some of them are failures. I'm not going to talk about the rate, success rate, failure rate, what's the reason behind it. But as a CIO or CTO, CDO, or any technology leader who oversee the AI implementation,
Yeah.
they have to navigate the complexity of the AI implementation. It can be cyber security, it can be data complexity.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they have to make sure we get a value out of these AI projects. The investment company is making on whether it is a dollar value, whether it is a resources, human resources value. As a leader, you have to have some kind of mechanism put in place so that
Yeah.
you can measure the value of your projects in return in investment. So you can present it to your boss or CEO, whoever it is, right, or for the business. That helps us to navigate. That helps us to scope your AI implementation.
Yeah.
And also it helps us to see where we are getting the value out of it and where we are not, right? It drives all kinds of scope mechanism based on your ROI. Now, for your question, what is the difference
Yeah.
between this ROI and other ROI? In generally, for traditional IT projects, for most of it, not all of them, but most of it, you kind of know the end predicted value, end outcome. What is the end outcome? You can predict the end outcome.
Oh.
If you're modernizing infrastructure, you kind of know what to expect, right? If you are implementing the ERP, you know what to expect out of it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. When it comes to AI implementation, a little bit different because it involves iterative learning, data complexity,
Yep.
and some of the uncertainty in timings. Like if you look at it, every project has tangible, intangible benefits, right? We know
Yep.
that.
Yep.
So like customer service, for example, customer experience, right? Employee experience. That can be a little bit of a not easy to measure immediately. That's
Yeah.
intangible. So when it comes to AI, it seems that the benefits of AI a little bit of more in terms of intangible benefits.
Yeah.
So that makes a little bit of complex to immediately measure the return on investment. So that's a little bit of different in
That
terms of
that
traditional
that
IT projects and the AI.
So what I'm hearing is this: if you do a regular project, you can say, yeah, we should get between 20 and 25% on our money. That's what you're saying. In AI, it's kind of like, well, we think we could get this, but we're not totally sure.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
but trust me, it's going to be great. That's not your framework, obviously. So that's the problem, right? Is
yeah,
that people need to understand that doing an AI project, measuring the ARI, what you're going to get, it's not as predictable up front. So you've put together, and this is why people like your article, I think, you've put together sort of a framework for people, right? And first, I think you've identified how the time horizon might be different, and then you've come up with the challenges of measuring ROI. So what do you want to talk about next in this, in terms of your framework to help people here?
Yeah, having said that, it is a little bit different than the traditional IT projects, right?
Yeah.
That we talked about it. Now we can talk about how do we measure in a structured way? What is R? At the end of the day, you have to measure ROI, right? How do we
Yes,
measure?
you do.
Right.
Yeah.
There are a
Yeah.
couple of steps. I think one of them is clearly defining the objectives. Now let's talk about this. Clearly
Yeah.
defining objectives.
Yeah.
That drives you to put a KPIs. For example, if you are automating, process automation, right? Then you
Yeah.
know how much is the cycle time. We reduce the cycle time. If you
Yeah.
are doing something, task automation, something in a shop floor, for example, the picking and sorting and packaging, that kind of stuff, units per hour, UPH, we call it as in shop floor. That's definitely your KPI. So one of the method is you make sure that you clearly define the objectives, and based on that, you put KPIs. The
Okay. Well,
second,
that makes sense.
yeah,
Go ahead. Yeah.
the second one I would say is you have a baseline of current performance prior to AI implementation. Make sure you have the performance that's the baseline for you. Same thing if you go with increasing your efficiency, you make sure what is the cycle time before AI implementation.
Yeah.
After you implement AI project or whatever, then you measure it, and that will give you a baseline and reference, and then you can easily measure where we are today. The third one, I think, is a very, very important one, is quantifying the cost. As we all know, AI
Yeah.
is not cheap.
No,
No, not at all. So we
it
all
seems
know
cheap
that,
to me.
right?
$20 a month
I
is pretty
know, I
good.
know, I
Yeah.
know. But so yeah, that's where that we're going to talk about it, right? You have a software, you have a hardware,
Yeah.
you have your cloud infrastructure expenses,
Hmm.
right? Your data acquisition, which is super important, right?
Yeah.
When it for data acquisition, it's talking about data management, data governance, right? Continuously monitoring, auditing the data that also has. These are all some of the costs, and make sure that these are ongoing effort. And it's not like one-time costs. Make sure
Yeah.
you include that one, right? And the other, which is probably important, and a lot of times people miss it, is hidden cost. The hidden cost, what I'm talking about is when you implement AI, you make sure everybody in an organization is fully aligned. That means the training of employees, for
Hmm.
example,
Yeah.
right? Some
That's a good one.
upskilling is needed, right? Upskilling is needed, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
In some cases, when you implement some of the AI projects, you may have to take some help from, outside partners, for certain projects.
Yeah.
That involves your cost, right? The change management, organizational change management, you need to make sure that everybody's on the page, the training and whatnot. So those are all hidden costs. You need to make sure you quantify all of them,
Yeah.
right?
That
And
totally makes
then,
sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
then the other one is you track the what is measurable immediately. For example, the
Mhm.
one we are talking about it, what, with optimization, with your optimization or automation, how much reduce the time, whether you're
Mhm.
talking about 10 clicks to 2 clicks, right? 10
Yeah.
people working to 2 people working, for example. You just quantify that, the automation, how much value you got out of it.
Mhm.
The other one is if you are implement, this is important one. If you are implementing AI in an innovative way, for example, you got a product with an AI, and then that probably brings some value in terms of revenue. So, okay, so you got a new product being implemented, and we got some, revenue numbers because of that new product, which is from with the implementation of AI.
Mhm.
You need to do that one too. Make sure that you count for that one. Right.
Well, that,
So,
yeah.
in the other one, I will tell you, this is super important too, is if you implemented AI in, for example, cyber risk, right? Or if you're
Yeah.
implementing, your ITSM side of it, some of the uptime of your environment, and these automation is already taken care, the errors which we deployed, you make sure that you add a value for that too.
That all makes sense. And I know you noticed that there were some challenges in doing this too, because this is what you're talking about ahead of time. So maybe you could lay those out for us. The challenges when it comes to an AI project of doing the measurement.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of challenges. The very first one is a data challenges we have.
Mhm.
We need to have it. When I say data challenge, it is a quality of the data, quantity of the data, and then continuously monitoring, auditing of the data. That's definitely one of the things we
Yeah,
need.
that makes sense.
That definitely are complex in a implementation of the project, and measuring the ROI. It plays a very critical role for AI projects. We mentioned about the intangible, right? Some of the intangible benefits is not easy to measure right away. For example, predictive analysis, if you look at it, when you have a
Yeah.
predictive analysis, that probably is going to, make some strategic decision, but you will not be able to see the fruits or the value right away, probably down the lane, right? So that kind of plays it. The AI technology is rapidly evolving, right? You may need to make some changes to your base models and cost. So those are all the definitely challenges we have with the ROI.
I mean, it totally makes sense. I imagine you might find some either opportunities or costs that you didn't expect when you started the project also.
Yeah, absolutely. That
You
an
know,
unfortunate project cost. Yeah.
yeah. So cost we could all kind of understand, but we are in the area of innovation here. I think you got to be open to saying, hey, we didn't expect this benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. You are right on that one. Yeah.
Well, why don't we get to the last segment, which is best practices for maximizing AI ROI, and why don't you take us through on your framework how you would suggest people do that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Alex. I think one of the key thing for any AI project to get success, first of all, and then second
Uh-huh.
is getting the maximum ROI out of it is it's like any other project, but this is super critical for AI side of it is start small.
Mm,
Don't go with the big first. Start small. What do they call it in
I like
English?
that.
Low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Make sure that you go to your business, see where the pain points are. Where can
Yeah.
we get the results right away, right?
That's wise.
Start small and then start. Once you get the results, you celebrate those small wins and then extend your scope. That's
Hmm.
definitely one of the best practices to get the maximum of ROI. The second, which is super important for AI side of it, is cross collaboration.
Hmm.
I am a strong believer in AI implementation is not just a technology or IT side of it. We need to have it's for everybody, but every project, but AI is more. We need to involve all the stakeholders. Whether it is a sales team, whether your HR team, your operations team, your supply chain team, all the business folks has to be part of it, and they need to have a cross collaboration. That's going to be driving the whole project. Like that's what we're talking about, organizational.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one we talked about during the cast. And then the other one is transparency and trust. I think we talked about it in several different podcasts as well. So for AI, one of the key things is about trust. Make sure that we have transparency and trust built between your systems. Make sure you have explainability built
Yeah.
in, so you get the trust between your stakeholders, your customers. And that's a super critical in the AI side of it for the success of AI. And then continuously monitor and audit. And one of the key thing for continuous monitoring auditing is data. Like everybody said, the data is
Yeah.
a critical component. You make sure that you continuously monitor and audit, and that's definitely one of the key factor for getting the maximum ROI.
You've really laid out a great framework for people. Well, why don't you wrap it up? I know you have a conclusion here you wanted to give to everybody. Why don't you wrap it up because you with a conclusion, your conclusion, and some parting words of advice? Because this has been a great segment, Praveen, to help people.
Yeah, I think the most important one is that AI, just don't bring AI for the sake of AI.
Yeah.
Make sure that you do the cost, quantify the cost for the implementation of AI. Make sure you identify the scope of it, where to start it. Start very small, and then get those small wins and celebrate those, and start expanding your scope. That's a key. And the second one is make sure that your data, like I said, quantity of data, quality of data management, data governance is a very critical, and
Yeah.
it's not a one-time shot. It's continuously monitoring, auditing. That's a leader's responsibility. So once you have those in place, it's very easy to get the ROIs. And once you have ROI, you'll get a you'll get a additional budget from your boss, or you will see the additional projects from AI, which will take you the advantage in your business.
It makes total sense. Well, Praveen, this has been a great segment. I mean, it is the question that everybody's talking about is how am I going to get an ROI out of AI? Because the board and everybody else is saying, we want AI, we want AI. And I think you've done a great job of laying out for the people that got to make it happen. Your
Yeah.
peers, the technology leaders are great